chasing others' approval is ruining your life? What if the truth you've been avoiding is the key to your happiness? Why do you feel exhausted by relationships? Have you ever felt overwhelmed, drained by the relationships around you? The constant pressure to stay connected, to engage in endless conversations, to be everywhere and with everyone, all in the name of avoiding loneliness or the fear of being seen as distant. But in this fast-paced world of constant connection, have you ever paused to ask yourself, are all these relationships truly adding value to your life? Think about it. You might have dozens of friends, countless followers, but still feel empty. The paradox is clear. The more we connect, the more disconnected we feel. It's as if we're running a race with no finish line, caught in a cycle of superficial interactions that give us nothing of real substance. So, what's the point? Why are we so compelled to maintain these relationships that, at their core, are hollow? Let me ask you something. When was the last time you felt genuinely connected to someone? I don't mean the obligatory "how are you" or the polite smile at a party, but real, raw connection where you felt seen, heard, and understood. If you're struggling to remember, don't worry. You're not alone. This is the problem we face today. We live in a world where more has become the standard. More friends, more followers, more connections, but fewer meaningful bonds. This brings me to a very important question. Are we living for ourselves, or are we living for the validation of others? When we start living to please everyone around us, we lose sight of what we truly need. We get trapped in the cycle of pleasing others, meeting their expectations, and trying to belong, all while ignoring our own emotional needs. And the worst part is, we don't even realize it until we're exhausted, burned out, and emotionally drained. Now, let's break this down for a moment. Why do we keep pushing ourselves to maintain these superficial connections? Part of it is societal pressure. The belief that success is measured by how many people you know, how many people you can get to like you. But is that truly success? Is the quantity of relationships really what makes us happy? Or is it the depth of those relationships that shapes the quality of our lives? Let's face it, deep down, we all crave connection. But what we often mistake for connection is simply being in the same space, exchanging a few words, or sharing a moment with someone who might not even truly understand us. And this kind of interaction, while momentarily fulfilling, leaves us feeling drained because it lacks authenticity. When you give so much of yourself, with nothing truly meaningful in return, it takes a toll on your emotional and mental well-being. So, what can you do about it? How can you start to feel more connected to the people around you without feeling completely depleted? The answer is deceptively simple. Choose your relationships wisely. Start filtering the people you allow into your life. Not everyone deserves a front row seat in your world. Not every person you meet is someone you should keep in your circle. And that's okay. In fact, it's more than okay. It's necessary. You see, when we choose to invest in relationships that are truly meaningful, that are built on mutual respect, understanding, and care, something amazing happens. We stop feeling like we're constantly running a marathon. We start to breathe again. Our relationships become a source of joy rather than stress. And that's the power of being selective with who you let into your life. Imagine for a moment a life where you don't feel obligated to say yes to every invitation, to respond to every text, or to attend every social gathering. A life where you can say no without feeling guilty, knowing that your peace and well-being are far more important than keeping up appearances. A life where the people in your circle truly know you. Not the curated version of you, but the real, unfiltered you. That's a life of true connection, and it's within your reach if you choose it. The truth is, many of us are afraid of isolation. We fear being alone, of being left out, of not measuring up. But what if I told you that solitude is not a punishment, but a gift? What if you saw it as an opportunity to reconnect with yourself? To nurture your own thoughts, desires, and passions without the distractions of meaningless relationships. When you embrace solitude, you stop seeking validation from others and start finding validation from within. It's in this space of self-reflection that you discover your true worth and begin to attract people who resonate with the real you, not the version you created to fit in. But choosing quality over quantity is not always easy. We live in a world that tells us more is better. More friends, more connections, more engagement. But the reality is that this more often leads to burnout and dissatisfaction. True peace and true connection come from choosing carefully who you surround yourself with. It's not about how many people like you or follow you, but about how many people genuinely care for you, support you, and understand you. Now, imagine how different your life could be if you could finally let go of the toxic relationships that drain you and instead focus on nurturing the ones that bring you peace and joy. Imagine the energy you would gain, the clarity you would feel, and the happiness that would come from living authentically. It's not about isolating yourself from the world, but about protecting your energy and choosing to invest in the people who truly deserve your time and love. So I challenge you today. Take a step back. Look at your relationships. Who in your life truly adds value to your happiness and growth? Who supports you, uplifts you, and challenges you to be the best version of yourself? Those are the people who deserve a place in your life. The others? It's time to let them go. Remember, quality is far more important than quantity. Stop chasing relationships out of fear and start building a life where you choose the connections that bring real meaning, real value, and real peace. It's time to live for you, not for anyone else. Thank you for joining me here today. If this message resonates with you, don't forget to subscribe to Success Lesson for more insights on how to create a life full of meaning, purpose, and authentic relationships. Stay tuned, because together we're about to embark on a journey of true self-discovery. Are you living for yourself or for others? Have you ever stopped and asked yourself, who am I living for? In the rush of daily life, we often forget to question this. We get so caught up in doing things for others, meeting their expectations, and adapting to fit into their world that we forget the most important thing. We are the ones who should be in control of our own life. The harsh reality is that many of us are living lives built on the desires and approval of others, not on our own terms. And we don't even realize it until we start feeling exhausted, drained, and disconnected from ourselves. In today's world, we are bombarded with messages about how we should look, what we should achieve, and who we should be. The world around us tells us that we need to fit into a specific mold. We need to be social, be likable, be popular, be successful. The pressure to conform to these external standards is immense. But have you ever stopped to think, what if I don't need to fit in? What if I could just be myself without needing anyone's approval? How would that feel? The truth is, we're often so busy trying to please others that we lose sight of who we really are. We live according to the rules of others, rules that may not even align with our own values or desires. We follow the crowd, chase external validation, and put on a mask that we think will make us more acceptable. We convince ourselves that if we just keep up with the latest trends, if we just say yes to every invitation, if we just try harder to meet the expectations of those around us, we'll finally find happiness. But deep down, we know this isn't true. Living for others may provide temporary relief, but it comes at a heavy cost. Over time, the constant effort to please people, to meet their needs, and to fulfill their expectations leaves us exhausted, emotionally depleted, and unfulfilled. You may feel like you're constantly running on empty, trying to meet a never-ending list of demands. And even when you think you're doing everything right, there's still a nagging sense that something is missing. This is the trap that so many of us fall into. We think that our worth is determined by what others think of us, by how many people like us, or by how successful we appear in their eyes. But this kind of thinking only leads us further away from our true selves. It makes us lose touch with what really matters: our own happiness, peace of mind, and authentic self-expression. The question we need to ask is, why should we live for someone else when we can live for ourselves? Choosing to live for yourself isn't about being selfish or neglecting others. It's about finding the courage to prioritize your own needs, values, and desires over the expectations of those around you. It's about making decisions that align with your true self, not based on what others think you should do or be. It's about creating a life that reflects who you are, not who others want you to be. When you begin to live for yourself, you start to honor your own feelings, desires, and boundaries. You stop chasing external approval and start cultivating internal peace. But living for yourself doesn't always come easily. Society places so much emphasis on external validation that it's easy to fall into the trap of seeking approval from others. We may worry that if we don't conform, if we don't fit in, we'll be left behind, or worse, we'll be rejected. We fear being seen as difficult or selfish. But the reality is, when you live for yourself, you open the door to authentic connections, real happiness, and a life that feels aligned with your true purpose. Living for yourself doesn't mean shutting others out. It means creating boundaries that protect your emotional and mental well-being. It means saying no when necessary, even if it's uncomfortable. It means choosing not to participate in relationships or activities that drain your energy or cause you to compromise your values. It's about surrounding yourself with people who support you for who you truly are, not for who you pretend to be. When you begin to live for yourself, you start to break free from the need to constantly prove your worth. You stop worrying about whether you're meeting the expectations of others, and instead, you start listening to your own inner voice. And in doing so, you begin to cultivate a life that is truly yours. You begin to attract the right people, those who appreciate you for who you are, not for who they want you to be. You stop chasing approval and start attracting the love and respect that you deserve. The most powerful gift you can give yourself is the ability to live authentically, on your own terms. When you live authentically, you stop seeking validation from others, and you start seeking it from within. You recognize that your worth isn't determined by anyone else's opinion. It's determined by your own beliefs and actions. And once you internalize this truth, you'll start to experience a sense of freedom, peace, and fulfillment that you never thought possible. But it's not always easy. The world around us constantly bombards us with messages about who we should be and what we should do. It's tempting to follow the crowd, to seek approval from others, to live according to the rules of society. But the truth is, these external pressures are often not aligned with our true selves. They're based on superficial standards that don't take into account who we really are, what we really want, or what will truly make us happy. Choosing to live for yourself means embracing the uncomfortable truth that not everyone will understand or approve of your choices. But that's okay, because the only person who needs to understand your journey is you. And once you begin living authentically, you'll find that the people who matter most will naturally be drawn to you. The ones who respect you for who you are, not for who you pretend to be. So, I challenge you today. Take a step back and ask yourself, who am I living for? Are you living for the approval of others, or are you living for your own happiness, peace, and fulfillment? The decision is yours, and the moment you choose to live for yourself is the moment you take control of your life. It's the moment you stop being a passenger and start being the driver of your own journey. Remember, you don't need to please everyone. You don't need to conform to societal expectations. You only need to please yourself. When you do that, everything else will fall into place. Thank you for joining me today. If this message resonates with you, don't forget to subscribe to Success Lesson for more insights on how to live an authentic life and build the relationships that truly matter. You are worthy of living for yourself, and together, we'll make sure you achieve it. The importance of self-awareness and protecting your inner peace. Have you ever wondered why, despite being surrounded by people, you still feel exhausted, drained, and emotionally distant? It's as if you're constantly surrounded by noise, yet can't seem to find any peace. This feeling is not uncommon, and it often stems from a lack of self-awareness, an inability to understand and protect your emotional boundaries. We live in a world where the constant demands of others, the pressure to meet societal expectations, and the noise of daily life can easily lead us to neglect our own needs. The truth is, when you don't take the time to understand yourself, your boundaries, and what truly matters to you, it's easy to become overwhelmed by the chaos around you. At some point in life, most of us experience the overwhelming feeling of being lost in a sea of external influences. We go through the motions, trying to please everyone, doing what's expected of us, and following the crowd. But in doing so, we forget the most important relationship we can have, the one with ourselves. When was the last time you took a step back to evaluate what's truly important to you? When did you last sit in silence and ask yourself what you need to feel whole? Without this self-awareness, it's easy to get swept up in the demands and distractions of others, leaving us feeling lost, empty, and disconnected from our own sense of purpose. The problem is, we live in a society that values constant connection, social validation, and external approval. The more friends you have, the more followers you gain, the more visible you are, the more successful you appear. Yet all this external validation doesn't fill the emptiness within. In fact, it often only serves to further disconnect us from our true selves. We end up living for others, following their standards, seeking their approval, and allowing their opinions to shape the way we see ourselves. This is where the problem lies. When we give away too much of ourselves in an attempt to meet others' expectations, we lose the ability to hear our own inner voice, and we become emotionally drained. You see, self-awareness is not just about understanding your likes, dislikes, or goals. It's about recognizing your emotional boundaries and understanding what makes you feel alive, connected, and at peace. It's about learning to say no when necessary, protecting your energy, and recognizing when certain relationships or situations are taking more from you than they are giving. Self-awareness is the first step toward creating a life that feels fulfilling, because when you know yourself, your true needs, desires, and values, you can make conscious decisions that align with your inner truth. But here's the truth. Knowing yourself is hard work. It's easy to get lost in the noise of everyday life, to put others' needs ahead of your own, and to forget that you deserve the time and space to care for your own emotional health. But if you don't take the time to care for your own emotional well-being, you will continue to feel drained, disconnected, and unfulfilled. When you're constantly giving without receiving, it's impossible to stay balanced. That's why protecting your inner peace is so important. Self-awareness allows you to recognize when you are giving too much of yourself and not receiving anything in return. It helps you discern which relationships are truly nourishing and which ones are draining you. The reality is, not every relationship is meant to last forever, and not every person you meet will be someone who deserves your time, energy, and emotional investment. Protecting your inner peace means understanding who is worth your time and who isn't. It means learning when to walk away from relationships that aren't serving you, even if that means disappointing others. This might sound harsh, but the truth is, if you don't protect your emotional boundaries, no one else will. When you choose to protect your inner peace, you're making a commitment to yourself. You're saying that you value your well-being, your happiness, and your emotional health above the need to please others or to meet external expectations. This means setting clear boundaries with your time, your energy, and your emotions. It means saying no when you need to, even if it feels uncomfortable. It means choosing not to participate in conversations or activities that drain you. It means learning to embrace solitude when you need it, rather than seeking external validation to feel whole. The beauty of self-awareness is that it empowers you to live a life that feels aligned with your true self. When you're clear on who you are and what you need, you no longer feel the need to prove yourself to others. You can stop seeking validation from people who don't have your best interests at heart and start investing in relationships that truly nurture you. Self-awareness gives you the strength to create a life based on your values rather than the expectations of others. Protecting your inner peace isn't about being selfish. It's about creating a life where you are free to be your authentic self. It's about respecting your own emotional boundaries and understanding that your needs matter too. And while it can be difficult to say no or step away from people or situations that drain you, it's essential to remember that your emotional well-being is worth protecting. When you prioritize your own peace, you begin to build a life that feels balanced, fulfilling, and true to who you are. But in order to do this, you must first acknowledge the power of solitude. In a world that is constantly pushing us to connect, to engage, to be seen, solitude often gets a bad rap. People fear being alone because it's often equated with loneliness or rejection. But solitude is not the same as loneliness. Solitude is a powerful tool for self-discovery and reflection. It's in those quiet moments when we are alone with our thoughts that we are able to reconnect with ourselves and hear the voice that often gets drowned out by the noise of the world. Solitude allows us to reset, to recharge, and to understand what we truly need to feel at peace. When you embrace solitude, you begin to realize that you don't need external validation to feel whole. You are enough as you are. You begin to understand that peace comes from within, and it is something that no one else can give you. It is something you must cultivate for yourself. Solitude gives you the space to understand your emotions, reflect on your experiences, and take control of your own happiness. So, if you're feeling drained, disconnected, or emotionally overwhelmed, ask yourself, have I taken the time to understand myself? Do you know where your emotional boundaries lie? Are you protecting your peace, or are you letting others dictate your energy? Self-awareness is the key to living a fulfilling, balanced life. By understanding your own needs, protecting your emotional boundaries, and embracing solitude, you give yourself the freedom to live authentically and without the emotional exhaustion that comes from constantly trying to please others. Remember, your peace is precious. Protect it. Take time to understand your true self and create the life that reflects your inner truth. Only then will you truly feel at home with yourself and begin to build relationships that nourish your soul rather than drain it. Building meaningful relationships in your life. In our fast-paced, always connected world, it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that the number of friends you have or the size of your social circle directly correlates to the quality of your life. We often measure our success based on external validation, how many people we know, how many likes we get on social media, or how many invitations we receive. But if we're honest with ourselves, this approach doesn't always lead to fulfillment. While many people surround themselves with a large number of acquaintances, how often do we stop to ask, how many of these relationships truly add value to my life? The truth is, we can be surrounded by people and still feel profoundly lonely. It's not the quantity of relationships that matters, but the depth of the connections we have. As humans, we crave meaningful connections, relationships that are built on trust, mutual respect, and understanding. Yet, in today's world, these authentic relationships seem to be harder to come by. Many of us settle for shallow connections because they're convenient, comfortable, or provide us with a sense of belonging. But deep down, we know that these interactions don't nourish our souls. What's worse is that by focusing so much on accumulating relationships that may not be meaningful, we unintentionally distance ourselves from the relationships that could actually bring us the most joy and fulfillment. These are the relationships that are grounded in genuine care and mutual support. These relationships don't require us to change who we are or to wear a mask to be accepted. They simply allow us to be ourselves, flaws, vulnerabilities, and all. But the question is, how do we build these meaningful relationships? And more importantly, how do we know when a relationship is worth investing in? First, we need to acknowledge that not all relationships are meant to last forever. People come in and out of our lives for a reason. Some relationships are temporary, serving their purpose in the moment, and it's important to recognize that. But just because someone is in our life for a period of time doesn't necessarily mean that we should continue to invest in the relationship if it's no longer serving us. In fact, one of the most important skills you can develop is the ability to recognize when a relationship is no longer adding value to your life. It takes courage to walk away from relationships that no longer align with your values or contribute to your personal growth, but doing so allows you to make space for people who truly have your best interests at heart. Building meaningful relationships isn't just about finding people who share similar interests or goals. It's about finding people who see you for who you truly are and accept you without judgment. It's about having people in your life who encourage you to grow, challenge you to be better, and provide unwavering support when you need it the most. These are the people who stand by you through thick and thin, who listen without offering unsolicited advice, and who offer compassion without expecting anything in return. But in order to build these kinds of relationships, we first need to be able to give the same in return. True, meaningful relationships are a two-way street. They require effort, vulnerability, and a willingness to invest in others as much as we hope they invest in us. We need to create spaces in our lives where others feel safe to open up, where they can be their authentic selves without fear of judgment. This means being present, actively listening, and offering support when needed. It means being willing to show up for others, even when it's inconvenient or challenging. It's about being there for the people you care about, even when you don't have all the answers or solutions. Sometimes just showing up and offering a listening ear can mean the world to someone who feels unheard or invisible. Building relationships with depth requires us to be intentional about the time and energy we devote to others. In today's world, where distractions are abundant and our time is limited, it's easy to get caught up in the hustle and bustle of daily life. But if we're not careful, we can easily let the important relationships slip through the cracks. The key is to be intentional, to prioritize the people who matter most to us, and to show them that we value them. Whether it's through a simple phone call, a thoughtful message, or spending quality time together, these small gestures of care and attention can go a long way in strengthening our bonds with others. It's also essential to remember that building meaningful relationships takes time. We often want instant connections, instant gratification, and immediate results, but real, lasting relationships require patience. They need time to grow, to deepen, and to evolve. Trust is built over time, and true connection is not something that can be rushed. It's something that develops gradually as we share experiences, face challenges together, and support each other through life's ups and downs. But perhaps the most important aspect of building meaningful relationships is self-awareness. We cannot expect to have deep, authentic connections with others if we don't first understand ourselves. It's only when we know who we are, our values, boundaries, and desires, that we can truly connect with others on a meaningful level. Self-awareness allows us to recognize when a relationship is healthy and when it's not. It helps us communicate our needs clearly and assertively, and it enables us to let go of relationships that no longer serve us. The more we understand ourselves, the more we can bring our true selves into our relationships, and the more likely we are to attract people who align with our values and vision for life. In the end, building meaningful relationships is not about quantity, but quality. It's about cultivating connections with people who inspire us, support us, and help us become the best version of ourselves. These relationships enrich our lives and bring us a sense of purpose and fulfillment that superficial connections simply cannot provide. But to build these relationships, we must be willing to let go of the ones that don't serve us, to prioritize the people who truly matter, and to invest the time and energy required to nurture them. It may take time, patience, and effort, but the rewards are immeasurable. When we choose to surround ourselves with people who truly care, we create a life that is rich with meaning, connection, and joy. So, as you reflect on the relationships in your life, ask yourself, are these relationships contributing to my growth and well-being? If not, it may be time to reassess, to let go, and to make room for the relationships that will truly make a difference in your life. Remember, the most meaningful relationships are those built on mutual respect, trust, and genuine connection. It's not about how many people you know, but how deeply you connect with those who matter most. Choose wisely, invest in those who add value, and watch your life transform. Choosing to live for yourself, the power of authenticity. In a world that constantly demands more of us, more effort, more connections, more success, it's easy to forget the most important lesson of all: living for yourself. We are taught from an early age to seek external validation. Society praises those who conform, those who keep up with the latest trends, those who blend in with the crowd. But have you ever stopped to wonder, what happens when you live for others and not for yourself? The truth is, when we begin to live to meet the expectations of others, we start to lose sight of who we really are. We start sacrificing our peace, our authenticity, and ultimately, our happiness. In our quest to fit in, to please everyone, we often forget that true fulfillment doesn't come from meeting others' expectations. It comes from living authentically, in alignment with who we are at our core. The harsh reality is that we cannot truly live a fulfilling life if we're constantly bending to the will of others. It's as if we're carrying a burden, trying to be what everyone else wants us to be, and in the process, we lose touch with the very essence of who we are. We end up exhausted, confused, and disconnected because we're not living for ourselves. We're living for the approval of others. Think about the times when you've been in situations where you felt compelled to say yes, even though you didn't want to. You've probably agreed to things, not because you genuinely wanted to, but because you feared what would happen if you said no. The fear of rejection, of being judged, of being left out. These fears hold us back from living authentically. But here's the truth. Living in fear of others' opinions is like putting your life on autopilot, letting others steer your course. The moment you give away your power to others, you lose control of your own path. This brings us to a vital question. What if you stopped living for others and started living for yourself? What if you took back control over your own life, made decisions based on your values, your needs, and your desires? Imagine how different your life would be. You wouldn't feel the weight of trying to meet everyone else's expectations. You wouldn't feel obligated to please others or to fit in with the crowd. Instead, you would live with intention, with purpose, and with the confidence that comes from knowing you're true to yourself. It may sound simple, but living for yourself takes courage. It takes the courage to stand up for your own beliefs and desires, even when they don't align with what others expect. It takes the courage to say no when something doesn't serve you, to set boundaries that protect your peace, and to walk away from situations and relationships that drain your energy. The key to living authentically is the ability to choose your path based on what feels right for you, not based on what others think you should do. When you begin to make decisions based on your own values, something amazing happens. You start to attract the right people into your life. The people who are meant to be a part of your journey will be the ones who appreciate you for who you truly are, not for the version of yourself you've created to fit into societal expectations. These are the people who will support you, challenge you to grow, and celebrate you for your authenticity. And when you surround yourself with people who accept you for who you are, you start to feel a deeper sense of belonging. Not because you're trying to fit in, but because you're being yourself. The most powerful thing you can do is to create space in your life for authenticity. This doesn't mean rejecting everyone who doesn't share your values or desires, but it means making room for the relationships that truly nurture you. It's about building connections with people who encourage you to be your best self without asking you to change who you are. Authentic relationships, those that are built on mutual respect, trust, and love, are the ones that give you the strength and courage to continue living for yourself. But to do this, you must first learn to listen to yourself. You must get in touch with your own desires and feelings. Far too many of us go through life without checking in with ourselves, letting the noise of the world dictate how we feel and what we need. The first step in living for yourself is to ask yourself some tough questions. What do I really want out of life? What are my values? What brings me joy and fulfillment? When you take the time to answer these questions honestly, you begin to align your decisions with your true self, and you stop living according to someone else's plan for your life. Living authentically means accepting who you are, flaws and all. It means letting go of the fear of judgment and embracing the idea that you don't need to please everyone. You will never be able to make everyone happy, and that's perfectly fine. The people who matter most to you will appreciate you for your genuine self, not the facade you put on to meet their expectations. As you begin to live for yourself, you'll find that the pressure to keep up with the world's standards lessens. You'll stop comparing yourself to others, because you will understand that your journey is unique to you. No one else can walk it for you. You won't need to seek validation from external sources, because your sense of worth will come from within. And as you embrace your authentic self, you will begin to feel a sense of peace and freedom that you've never experienced before. This kind of freedom isn't just about saying no to the things that don't serve you. It's about saying yes to the things that truly matter. It's about being brave enough to follow your heart, to pursue the things that bring you joy, and to stop second-guessing your choices. When you live authentically, you stop seeking external approval and start creating a life that reflects who you really are. You start to feel empowered, grounded, and at peace with the path you've chosen. So I ask you again, what would happen if you stopped living for others and started living for yourself? What would it feel like to free yourself from the expectations of the world and live a life that's truly your own? The answer is simple. It would feel like freedom. Freedom to be yourself, to make choices based on what's best for you, and to live a life that's aligned with your values. Living authentically is the key to creating a fulfilling life. It's about embracing who you are, letting go of the need for external validation, and choosing to live in a way that reflects your true self. And once you do that, you'll find that everything else, your relationships, your work, your passions, will fall into place. So take the first step today. Live for yourself. It's the most empowering choice you can make. In a world filled with noise, expectations, and constant pressure to conform, it's easy to lose sight of what truly matters. We often get caught up in pleasing others, seeking approval, and meeting the standards set by society. However, when we live for others instead of for ourselves, we risk losing our authentic selves, leading to exhaustion, confusion, and a sense of emptiness. The key to living a fulfilled and meaningful life lies in choosing to live for yourself, in aligning your decisions with your own values, needs, and desires. The journey toward living authentically is not easy. It requires introspection, courage, and the willingness to set boundaries. It's about prioritizing your emotional health, saying no when necessary, and distancing yourself from relationships and situations that drain you. Living authentically means embracing who you are, accepting your flaws, and finding peace in knowing that you don't need to prove yourself to anyone. It's about creating a life that reflects your true self, not a version of yourself shaped by the expectations of others. When you begin to live for yourself, you stop chasing external validation. Instead, you start cultivating inner peace, confidence, and clarity. Your relationships improve because you attract those who value you for who you are, and your sense of fulfillment grows as you pursue what truly matters to you. It's not about having everything, but about having the right things: meaningful relationships, a sense of purpose, and the freedom to live life on your own terms. The profound lesson here is that true happiness comes from within, and it's only when you choose to live authentically that you can truly experience peace and fulfillment. Stop worrying about what others think of you. Instead, focus on being the best version of yourself, the one that feels aligned with your true values and desires. When you do this, you'll find that life becomes easier, more joyful, and more rewarding. So I encourage you today to take a step back and reflect on your life. Ask yourself, am I living for myself or am I living for others? If you find that you've been living to please others, now is the time to make a change. Start small, set clear boundaries, and choose to prioritize your own happiness. For more insights on how to live an authentic, fulfilling life, join our community at Success Lesson. By subscribing, you'll gain access to even more valuable content that will empower you to take control of your life and live it on your own terms. Hit the subscribe button to support the channel and help us continue creating inspiring content just for you. Let's embark on this journey together. And remember, the best way to find success is to start by being true to yourself.